On our quest to watch every single Disney animated feature, my family and I were shocked to discover Jack Skellington as an evil pirate trapped beneath the ice with Donald Duck as his enforcer. But there was more. There was a deep sadness in Jack's hollow eyes. My family, we're big Disney fans. Our hallway is lined with Disney ride posters. Half of our garage is as you see it behind me. The other half is this.
Come on, show your Disney side.
Part of that Disney fandom has been watching every single feature-length animated film that Disney has produced, starting with
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
And we've included features that are live action with a strong animated component. Think Mary Poppins or Bread Knobs and Boomsticks.
Bed knobs and broomsticks.
Now, I'm sure I'm the first person to ever make this observation. In the late 1980s, Disney was on an absolute hot streak. There's a reason it's called the Disney Renaissance. An expression I just made up. It's extra impressive considering one of the movies, arguably Penny's favorite movie, wasn't even considered part of the Renaissance, and it wasn't even considered Disney at the time.
Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
And if it's not her favorite, it's certainly the one she's watched the most over the years. Early 1990s Disney executives thought it was just too dark and weird.
Take a close look at the track record of this company.
And released it under the Touchstone banner. Touchstone began under Disney son-in-law CEO Ron Miller. It was established for Disney's edgier films, beginning with Splash. Beginning with Splash. And it's just interesting to think that Splash came out in 1984 and The Little Mermaid came out only 5 years later. And it's extra weird to think that I watched Splash before I watched The Little Mermaid.
Behold the mermaid!
Disney retroactively, in 2006, rebranded Nightmare Before Christmas as a Disney film, as in the official logo out front, when they saw dollar signs. Incidentally, they see dollar signs every time they see myself and my family coming. Our viewing of all these films brought us to another film that has a key live action component, but is mostly animated. And like The Nightmare Before Christmas, it's stop motion animation. And like The Nightmare Before Christmas, it's not traditionally thought of as a Disney film.
James and the Giant Peach.
Was an ancient peach tree that never gave any peaches. A movie that I sadly have to admit I kind of forgot about, despite its great personal significance. James is an orphan, and his parents are killed by a rhinoceros. I am not an orphan, and my parents are still with us, but when it's their time, I hope that they are peacefully trampled by a rhinoceros, or a herd of rhinoceri. The book creates enough space for the reader's imagination. The movie strongly implies that they died some other way. There's car horns over trampling rhinoceros sounds. We see a rhinoceros in the clouds, made out of clouds, and James startles away. A filmic manifestation of our childhood fears. Maybe adult ones too, and jokes to help you cope with potential realities. A product of his imagination, a coping mechanism. The book is at once more fantastic and more grounded. In the original art, it's wonderfully terrifying. James is sent to live with his cruel aunts Spiker and Sponge. James' existence outside of backbreaking labor, and I can relate. I grew up, chopping wood, and I didn't do most of the chopping, but a lot of the log carrying and very nearly getting hit by logs when my dad would chop them and throw them. But James' existence is work way harder than anything I did growing up. And that existence occurs alone by the window of his bedroom. There he waits. For what? For his parents, for them to come back magically and rescue him, for something, for anything to happen to change his circumstances. The book puts it this way. Something else, he told himself, stranger than ever this time, is about to happen to me again soon. He was sure of it. He could feel it coming. In the film, by that window, after saving the spider from his vicious aunts, and forgive the blow-by-blow of the plot, but it's relevant to the key points I want to make here. He sings and longs for a better tomorrow. A galaxy far, far away, a place over a rainbow, We've heard it all before. But I think all of us have spent some time by a similar window.
Oh, my friends, I've begun to worry right.
James is given crocodile tongues from a strange old man who in the book looks like a troll or elf or something. They're weird little hopping magical glowworm things. Through a series of wacky missteps, and who can't relate to wacky missteps, James does exactly what the old man says not to do and spills them everywhere. He'd been warned not to allow them to come in contact with anything or they'd grow exponentially large. When something is large, it is seen. I mean, I grew up watching the movie Big too. Could do a whole thing about Splash and Big and Tom Hanks and all this. But we just want to be seen. And that's what those crocodile tongues do. They make something seen. As a parent of 2 young kids and a former kid myself, I get it. We all want to be seen, we all want to be heard. Some of us might sing songs about it, or demand it via He-Man toys.
Now I have the power.
What better way to be seen, aside from having the power that He-Man has, is to be big, which He-Man also is. And if you can't be big, you can at least live in a giant peach. They attach themselves to the peach tree. A peach sprouts and then grows and 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 grows. The massive peach is exploited by Spiker and Sponge, and James is used as a prop. James eats his way into the peach, and we transition into the surreal world of stop-motion animation via Henry Selick.
I think that there's something about Roald Dahl that will always be timeless with kids. It's about kids solving problems, kids faced with hardships, usually wicked adults, usually not their parents, although sometimes their parents, sometimes the parents are just not caring. It's about them overcoming odds with a lot of humor, with a lot of invention.
The themes of abuse are much stronger in the book, as is the nature of the world in general as a cruel place. The movie does very much soften those things. It was a Disney movie after all. The world of the book is a downright mean, awful place. When the peach rolls free, it doesn't just result in the gag where it crushes the car as it does in the movie. The same flattened car that then somehow drives across the Atlantic Ocean, leaning heavily into this is all James's fantasy in his head. But Spiker and Sponge are killed when the peach flattens them. And when it went bump, and the centipede shouted, "That's Aunt Sponge," and then bump again, and that was Aunt Spiker. There had been a tremendous burst of cheering all around. My guess is twofold here. First, that the filmmakers wanted a payoff at the end of the movie with Spiker and Sponge, and that they also wanted a more modern sense of justice for what happened to James. However, the book's payoff is brutal and immediate and keeps the focus on James and his journey of transformation throughout this story.
Where I should be grateful, I should be satisfied.
"Look who's here." And another one said, "We've been waiting for you." Within the peach, James finds a family. James befriends the insects, Mr. Grasshopper, Mr. Centipede, Mr. Earthworm, Mrs. Ladybug, Mrs. Glowworm, Miss Spider, the spider he previously saved, a brilliant addition to the film. They represent aspects of the parents he lost, as well as what he'll find in himself, his bravery, his fear, his potential, his safety, his security. But it's also the story of a boy having an adventure with some bugs. The more complex reading is reflected in the song, "That's the Life."
That's the life for me.
The song itself is like the characters, the interior life of James as he grows, contrasting the quiet, settled life of the ambition of the bright lights in the big city. The songs and the score are from Randy Newman.
My motivation is to change the course of Western music.
More famous for his then recent songs for Toy Story and his hatred of children. When people hurt us, particularly as a kid, you kind of wish for a parent figure or an older sibling that will do all the right things, say all the right things, and protect you in all the right ways. As a parent, I can pull back the curtain on all that and say, we don't come equipped with those skills. But we do try our best. You might have adventures in space with Luke Skywalker, taking down an AT-AT, but still seeking a father figure, a family. Finding your family in imagination. James is a boy so desperate for family that he finds it in a bunch of bugs. Eventually they get to New York, land the peach, confront the rhino, and become not just friends, but as I said, a family, making the peach their permanent home. They could have considered opening a 1950s style restaurant, if those are still in fashion. Should be like a 1980s style restaurant right now to appeal to my generation.
Willie, fire up the grill.
It's the perilous journey across the Atlantic where the story plays out, where a boy already transformed from human to animation, this part of the story where he is now animated, this is where the real metamorphosis occurs. The first stop motion character we meet in the film is Miss Spider, when we thought she was just a spider in his window. This lonely boy is so desperate for a friend, he's absolutely excited to see a spider in his window. After he introduces himself to the spider, he sings how he is lonely and afraid, and that causes him to forget. But he goes inside his head to look for James, to find James, to remember James.
My name is James.
Sometimes the hurt can hold you together as a family, and when it does that, it might tear you apart inside.
Oh, my heart, I would clap and dance and play.
In the book, he talks to Mrs. Ladybug about her family, her giant, huge family. How some are a little saucy, how some are less intelligent than others, but all of them are loved. But they are all of them loved? Said James. Yes, the ladybug answered quietly. They are all of them loved. In 1996, my grandfather was in the hospital dying of cancer. It was a few days before Christmas and well before the widespread use of cell phones. At this point, I was a paper boy. My family went to the hospital. My mom, dad, all of my brothers. I was home alone. I guarantee you that the Home Alone joke was probably in poor taste, but humor is a coping mechanism for me. Also, it was only moderately funny, so that's really the issue I have here. Due to my sworn oath as a newspaper delivery boy, I had to trudge not through the snow, but the gray mush that the snowplows leave behind, and deliver the newspapers. I did my duty, deliver the papers, and returned home alone. The understanding was that my dad's aunt and uncle, not a married couple, but a comical brother-sister pair, were going to come pick me up. They were actually neighbors and lived right down over the hill. So close that in the winter, when Uncle Bob put up the crazy amount of Christmas lights that he did, you could see them from our house. And if anyone other than me were throwing it, you could hit their house with a rock. Again, anyone other than me throwing it. Being the youngest of 4 boys creates a unique dynamic as a kid. You yearn to be seen and heard, but you also try really hard to fly under the radar, to not stir things up, to not get anybody mad at you, to not make any trouble, but sometimes you also kind of poke them in the side. To make matters worse, I was the creative one. I still am. Can't get that to go away.
With my friends I have so much pleasure to embrace.
I sat at the kitchen table, waiting and waiting. No Aunt Marge. No Uncle Bob. Nobody. With my pap dying in Shadyside Hospital, I sat alone at the table with no ability to contact anyone in my family. I felt so isolated, so alone, because I was. I made jokes then and I make jokes now. And a lot of time, those jokes are born from joy. However, there's plenty of time where they mask a whole lot of sadness. The sun set, the snow fell, and eventually the phone rang. The old tethered to the wall kind of phone. My mom called from the hospital. Uncle Bob, Aunt Marge, they weren't down over the hill. They were at the hospital without me. They forgot me. Like literally, actually forgot me. What is childhood? It's a time of hope and growth, exploration. It's also a time marked by great sadness. For the best of us, those aren't overriding, they aren't all-consuming. But one thing we all have in common is there are moments like that there for every one of us. That Christmas was a sad blur back and forth from the hospital, mostly in my older brother Jason's blue Chevy Cavalier. The then brand new song, A Long December by the Counting Crows, played on a loop in my brother's cassette deck in the car. As a young boy, with dreams of telling stories in Hollywood, the song wrapped itself around me in that car. And it's one more night in Hollywood. If you think you might come to California, I think you should. But then it knocked me back down to Pittsburgh's asphalt and that mushy, dirty, plow-left snow. The smell of hospitals and winter. And the feeling that it's all a lot of oysters, but no pearls. To this day, I cannot go into a hospital without thinking of this line from this song. Listening to the song now, 30 years later, having kids, and having experienced a whole lot of different kinds of sadness and joy too, it hits in other ways as well. And it's been a long December, and there's reason to believe maybe this year will be better than the last. I can't remember all the times I tried to tell myself to hold on to those moments as they pass. It was still Christmas, and we did our best to celebrate. We watched A Christmas Story over and over again. We opened gifts, we hung out together, but it was always back and forth from the hospital. There's some damage that once it's been done, those scars never heal. Pap died on December 27th. Pap wasn't alone when he passed. My dad was with him. Now, Pap to my kids.
But my heart is returned to Sister Winter.
It's fitting that the film James and the Giant Peach was released in 1996. Like The Nightmare Before Christmas, I thought it was directed by Tim Burton. But like The Nightmare Before Christmas, it wasn't directed by Tim Burton at all.
Walt Disney Pictures and the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
In the case of James and the Giant Peach, this feels a bit like a missed opportunity. Henry Selick is a master of his craft, but his craft is stop-motion animation.
I really like to make sure each character is completely unique. How they look, one's extra long and skinny, and one's extra squat and round, the length of their legs, everything's very distinct.
See? Tim Burton, you could argue, certainly then, was a master of his craft as well. And you could say he was going through his own renaissance, if that's kind of sort of accurate. I'm just trying to connect it to the joke I made earlier. But his films from that period include Beetlejuice, Ed Wood, Edward Scissorhands, Batman, and not The Nightmare Before Christmas.
When you're in pain, you need some sort of release, like drawing, thinking, writing, creating.
Apparently, with Burton's hot streak, those Disney executives, or Touchstone executives, which were still technically Disney executives, they saw dollar signs as if my family was walking down the street, and put Tim Burton's name in front of the film, presumably since they weren't putting the Disney branding in front of it. Now, if you would, imagine for a moment those live action sequences directed by Tim Burton. Watching them now, I feel as if Henry Selick was doing his best to capture Tim Burton's style of filmmaking, that hyper-stylized, almost German expressionist filmmaking that Tim Burton was known for before he leaned into everything being glossed over with CGI. That dreamlike reality of Edward Scissorhands, of Batman, of Beetlejuice and Ed Wood. The point here isn't to praise Tim Burton or insult Henry Selick, but to say, in some other hypothetical world, this film, which is really good and really special, could have been profound, like the book was.
Felt that why not save that automatic jolt of magic you get from stop motion for when the magic is released. For me, it was best personified by sticking to the stop motion for the miracle world, then mixing it at the end.
Then again, dreams are often better than reality. In reality, people judge us, people lie to us, people steal from us, people say things about us. From the jarring overacting of Aunt Spiker and Sponge, here more annoying than terrifying as they are in the book, to the surreal beauty of the stop-motion animation, and the dreamlike reality of the live-action sequences, along with the odd, almost body horror of living in and eating your... oh no. I found it all comforting. As I strangely now find it comforting that when I pulled out my lights to set this up, there was a spider on it. James learns and grows throughout the story, and it really starts in a key moment when the Peach lands on the ocean. He comes up with the idea of using the seagulls, but immediately calls his own idea stupid. I can relate, a really bad habit of mine. But when he does that, Mrs. Ladybug does something his aunts would never do. Ask him how he would do it, what he would do. He's heard. They work together to harness the seagulls and fight off the mechanical shark, and they celebrate James. The world remains terrifying, the journey remains perilous. But James, or you, or I, with caring people, or supportive bugs, we can learn courage when we're nurtured and encouraged. We will be hurt, and we will hurt others, unfortunately, but together, at least we have a chance. When we're not left to sit by the window. After Mrs. Spider puts James to sleep, he has a nightmare. Thinking of his aunts, he's reminded of that separation, that isolation, that sadness. He's put to bed by a creature who, under different circumstances, perhaps even with a different child, would likely eat the child.
We wanted the spider to be sort of cool and aloof, let the others be slightly afraid of her. After all, if spiders catch anything in their webs, they'll eat it.
But he has nightmares not about this monstrous insect, but the people who have hurt him. When he wakes up, they're lost, floating over a glacier because of the unreliable centipede. We all need guidance, and far below in the icy water, there's literal guidance. In this case, it's a compass. Centipede heads down alone into those icy waters and retrieves the compass. He shows his bravery, he shows his worth, and he shows that his bravado is just that, bravado. But when he needs rescued, his friends, James and Miss Spider, go down to rescue him. Before they rescue him, it is who they encounter beyond the original source material that is really important here. It is Jack Skellington. In The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack is trapped in a loop. He's the Pumpkin King. There's nobody better at bringing terror to others. Early in The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack sings, "I'm a master of fright and a demon of light." As the song ends, she watches. She's the only one who feels the same way. "Oh, there's an empty place in my bones that calls out for something unknown. The fame and praise come year after year, does nothing for these empty tears." He doesn't even understand what he's missing. His sadness and depression is so evasive, he can't even put words to it. He isn't unhappy, he isn't unloved, but he's somehow empty, somehow unfulfilled, and he's trapped. And in James the Giant Peach, likewise, he is trapped beneath the ice and on that ship. Jack is a happy, cheerful soul that loves to make people happy, but he's not very good at it.
Did Santa bring you honey?
He's an encouraging, delightful fellow, but he's also the demon of light, the master of fright. That's who he is. He's both of those things. In The Nightmare Before Christmas, he tries something outside of himself, something challenging to bring joy to people. As a writer and a creative person, and just as a human being, I can relate to that. And I'm sure you can too. We've all tried something, put something out there at great risk and great peril, with absolute terror, fear of rejection that might come, not knowing what the reception will be, not knowing what people will say, not knowing how our friends will treat us. It's very scary. But you do it because you're compelled to create. In my life, I feel like I've made more mistakes than I made the right choice. I'm sure that's not true, but it feels that way. From creative projects that went nowhere, to a failed business, to saying the wrong thing in a conversation. I feel it all, and it weighs on me. All of that puts me back at that kitchen window. At the end of Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack fails at Christmas. Although if you've had the pleasure of riding the Haunted Mansion Nightmare Before Christmas overlay, you might disagree. Think he succeeded in that regard. Anyway, he fails. He gives up. He goes back to the life he had and what he did. And I just can't wait until next Halloween, because I've got some new ideas that will really make them scream. For me, when I'm at my worst, most wounded, I'm a child by that kitchen window. But I can't stay there anymore.
Oh, my thoughts, I return to summertime.
I don't recall if I read the book prior to watching the film, but after I watched the film, I tracked it down. The Nancy Eckeln Burkett illustrations make the story even more haunting. The lines almost appear scratched on. There's a strange aggression to the drawings that permeates through the story. Because there's a lot of hurt in this story. There's a lot of hurt in our lives, and you can see it in the art. I noticed something else when I looked at James in this book. When I looked into his eyes, the void of his eyes, he was a ghost of a boy. He was haunting me because he was me. I saw those hollow eyes. I saw Jack Skellington's eyes. As an adult, watching with my daughters, I saw myself by that window. I saw everyone I've hurt, everyone that's hurt me. My great aunt and uncle, my parents, none of them intended for me to be left by that window. But we as parents can't always control the circumstances of our lives, let alone our kids. Bruce Springsteen sings about letting that go in the song Jesus Was an Only Son, and the desperation that his mother Mary must have felt when he's on that cross. Jesus had the earthly brothers and sisters, but when he's going to die, he's an only child. Several months ago, on my 15th wedding anniversary, Primrose asked me if Mommy and Daddy were going to die. She asked what would happen to her if we died, like the mom and dad from Frozen. I told her statistically that's highly unlikely, but the next day, after dropping her and Penny off at school, a truck crossed 3 lanes of traffic and very nearly hit Judy and I in the car. We are not in control, and I found myself in front of that window. I saw the dark hollow of my own eyes. I saw all the wrongs I've ever done, all the harm I've ever caused, and all the harm that's ever been done to me. If I've ever hurt you, I remember it. If you've ever hurt me, I remember it. To quote Johnny Cash singing Trent Reznor, I remember everything. For a long time, that was a bad thing because it stuck to me and defined me. And then I got a little bit unstuck and a little bit more unstuck. Some days it's still a bad thing and I still get a little stuck. But most days it isn't. Most days are defined by joy.
When I kissed your ankle, I kissed you through the night.
The pain, properly processed, can sustain us, help us grow, not unlike the peach itself. James the Giant Peach is fundamentally about transformation. James transforms. Even the peach transforms. I can transform. The people who have hurt me can transform. The people I've hurt can transform. One of my favorite novels is Atonement. I read it at the recommendation of the great Sid Steeble, who Ray Bradbury called the greatest writing teacher that ever was. Or something to that effect. I don't have the quote in front of me. You can't change your past, but maybe through stories you can atone. And as a child, and still as an adult, I know stories help you heal. They've healed me. They've forced me to confront my pain and look at myself, to see myself sitting by that window, to understand why and where it came from and where I can go. Stories saved my life. They will again. That bag of crocodile tongues, that is our imagination. Our stories to tell, informed by our broken bits. Our pain, our tragedy, our love and our loss. Those who stole from us, those who gave to us. Those who cast us off, and those who took us in, and loved us unconditionally along the way. The mess of bouncing crocodile tongues. Pour out your bag of crocodile tongues. That bag is your imagination. That bag is your story to tell. Like James, I stumble, hindered by the mistakes I've made, and the people that I've hurt, and the hurt done unto me. The bag spills open in misery and pain, uncontrolled. The story got away from him. Unlike James, being an adult, the story helped me find a way. I guess it helped James, too. Again, watching all of Disney's animated films, starting with Snow White all the way up to the Heffalump movie, has taught me a lot about the history of animation. But it's also showed me that life and everything else is a process. You were a process. I am a process. I don't know where you're at in your process of transformation. Maybe you're fully who you desire to be. But maybe you're Jack Skellington as a pirate stuck under the ice, perpetually performing Halloween, when you know you just want to cheer people up at Christmas. Remember, it's a process. James found a family, and after it all, a home. I'm grateful that I have that. As people have rejected me, others have accepted me and loved me unconditionally. I pray that you find your family of bugs waiting for you in the husk of a dried out peach. Every day of the week, hundreds and hundreds of children from far and near came pouring into the city to see the marvelous peach stone in the park. And James Henry Trotter, who once, if you remember, had been the saddest and loneliest little boy you could find, now had all the friends and playmates in the world.
Now my heart is returned to Sister Winter. Now my heart is as cold as ice. All my friends I've returned to Sister Winter. All my friends I apologize. All my friends I've returned to Sister Winter. All my friends I apologize. All my friends I've returned to Sister Winter. All my friends I apologize.